LSU has had some historic players come out of their program. If we look at some of the past guys like Billy Cannon and Burt Jones, but if we also look at some of the current guys that come out of LSU, the talent is endless. But one man who led the Tigers to the national championship in 2020 may be the greatest single player to ever step foot in Baton Rouge. Now you're asking Jasper, who is that player? Of course, I'm talking about Joe Burrow. With Burrow doing the improbable yet again, taking a Bengals team that no one, and I repeat, no one thought would make it this far to the Super Bowl, the legend of this kid grows larger and larger every day and has one of the most unreal stories ever. But what was his life like before the NFL? We'll take a look back at Burrow's life from a four-star recruit coming out of Ohio to his time at Ohio State, sitting on the bench behind JT Barrett, and eventually transferring to LSU, which ultimately changed the entire course of his career. First off, before we get started, guys, I would like to thank the new subs to the channel. I really appreciate the support, guys. Keep it up. I'm currently on the road to 1K subs, so if you guys can get me there by spring, that would be dope. If you have any suggestions on what or who I should cover next, don't be afraid to comment down below in the comment section. And if you want to shit on me and say I suck at what I do, you can do that as well. And make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And without any further interruptions, let's get right into the video. Joe Burrow's football journey started in Ames, Iowa, of all places. He was pretty much destined to play the sport of football from an early age, being the son of a former player and longtime coach who was on the Iowa State staff when Joey was born, and also comes from a long line of athletes. In the 1940s, one of his grandmothers set a Mississippi State high school record with 82 points in a basketball game. His paternal grandfather played basketball at Mississippi State, his uncle John Burrow played football at Ole Miss, and his two older brothers both played football at Nebraska. Fun fact, despite having played the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game this season, he actually grew up as a Chiefs fan, as his father so hilariously posted on Twitter. Burrow got his start at quarterback not necessarily because he wanted to play the position, but because his youth football team had no one else that could. As a kid, Burrow moved around a lot due to his dad's coaching career. The Burrow started out in Ames and then moved to Fargo, North Dakota, so his dad could coach at North Dakota State. During this time, the older Burrow met with the future coach of Central Michigan, Don Enos, who would tell him point blank that his son had a future in the sport. After the Burrow spent only 2 years in Fargo, they ended up landing in Athens, Ohio, which is really where the legend of Joe Burrow would start to shape. Burrow attended Athens High School in Ohio and absolutely dominated during his time there. He led the school to 3 straight playoff appearances and passed for over 11,000 yards, 157 touchdowns. But Burrow wasn't just a passer, he also got it done on the ground, rushing for 2,067 yards and 27 rushing touchdowns. He was, of course, named the Gatorade Player of the Year coming out of the state of Ohio and was rated a 4-star recruit according to 24/7 Sports, and was the 8th highest ranked dual threat quarterback in the class of 2015. Although Burrow received tons of accolades and he was one of the best players coming out of Ohio, he didn't really have too many big-time offers. The only real big-time Power 5 offer Burrow got was from Ohio State. I mean, yes, he had offers from schools like Boston College, Kentucky, and Iowa State, but nowhere near as big of a football school as the Ohio State is. So, as we know, Burrow committed to the Buckeyes and started his college career in Columbus. After redshirting his first season, Burrow was buried on the bench behind JT Barrett. And then come a few springs later, Urban Meyer had a great decision to make to fill the shoes of arguably one of the best quarterbacks in program history. Meyer ultimately decided to go with Haskins, forcing Joey to transfer. Looking back on this, yes, this was a bad decision if you look at how both their pro careers turned out, but Haskins had just as great as a season as Burrow did during his senior year at LSU. So, hindsight's 20/20. But again, we can also crap on Urban Meyer too for just being Urban Meyer. But that's another video for another day. Joey B decided to pack his bags and transfer to the SEC and play at LSU. During his first season in Baton Rouge, we would get a glimpse into what was to come. And good thing for LSU, since Burrow graduated in only 3 years, that made him immediately eligible to play. This was obviously before the transfer rules were just completely overhauled. In his first season, he won the job and made an instant impact. The real defining moment, though, that season for Burrow was his performance in the Fiesta Bowl against UCF. After getting his bell rung against a UCF linebacker on a pick six, Burrow went absolutely Super Saiyan the rest of the way and were able to knock off the UCF Knights after their, national championship season. In 2008, Burrow was able to lead the Tigers to a 10-3 record, accomplishing that in only his first season in America's toughest conference, which is quite impressive. He led the Tigers to amazing wins, first with a top 10 victory over Miami and Auburn, and later on upsetting the second-ranked Georgia Bulldogs, ending any hope of Georgia making it back to the college football playoff. Next season, however, the 2019 Tigers squad would not just be immortalized as the best team in the country that season, but quite possibly one of the best teams ever in college football. Coming into the 2019 season, LSU was going to be a really good team, but with Alabama still in the division, their road to the college football playoff would be a gauntlet. The Tigers started off the season ranked 6th in the AP polls and got their first signature win over the 9th-ranked Texas team. Then once they headed into league play, they knocked off the 7th-ranked Florida Gators behind Burrow's 293 yards and 3 touchdown passes, which pushed the Tigers past Florida 42-28. In the following week against Mississippi State, Burrow had yet another monster performance, throwing for 321 yards, 2 total touchdowns, and setting a new school record for, listen to this, 8 career 300-yard games. However, the most important game of the year for any LSU player and fan is the Alabama game. And this season, it was no different. If the Tigers wanted to make it to the college football playoff, they had to go through Alabama. It was the highest ranked matchup between the two since their clash back in the 2012 National Championship game. And this game will also be the deciding factor as to who will win the coveted Heisman Trophy, as Tua and Burrow were still kind of going head-to-head for the award. Burrow and the Tigers came out victorious in a 46-41 shootout. Burrow, not really surprisingly, had another 300-plus yard game and 3 touchdowns. After that matchup, fans as well as NFL franchises were starting to take notice. The following weeks, Burrow broke the single-season passing record against Ole Miss with a stomping of Texas A&M. So Burrow took sole possession of the SEC single-season touchdown record the following week in the SEC championship game, where he threw for 4 touchdowns and absolutely stomped a hole in Georgia, beating them 37-10, and securing the Tigers' place in the college football playoff as the number 1 seed. That game also proved to be enough for Burrow to win the Heisman Trophy, becoming only the second player in program history to win the award, behind Billy Cannon in 1959. This set up a date in the college football playoff semifinal against a Jalen Hurts-led Oklahoma team where it wasn't even close. Burrow had a field day on Oklahoma's poorest offense. He threw for 7 touchdowns during the first half alone and had almost 500 yards, along with even a rushing touchdown, in which was a absolutely just brutal semifinal game. The Tigers were able to walk off with a 63-28 victory, and then the next week they would have to face Trevor Lawrence and the Clemson Tigers, who were looking to become back-to-back champions and had all the hype in the world. When the game commenced, it was fairly evenly matched until around the 4th quarter. And in the final few minutes of the game, Burrow threw a touchdown pass to Terrace Marshall Jr., which gave the Tigers the lead, but left plenty of time for Trevor Lawrence to do what he does. But after punting the ball away in the first possession, Clemson got the ball back and had yet another chance to win the game. Lawrence ultimately ended up costing Clemson the national championship by fumbling the ball on a QB rush, which was recovered by Derek Stingley Jr. to secure LSU's first national championship since 2007, and all but securing Burrow as a college football legend. With the upcoming 2020 draft, there was some debate as to whether Burrow or his former OSU teammate Chase Young would be taken with the first overall pick. Well, with the fact that since he was looking to move on from Andy Dalton, and Burrow being an Ohio kid, it was ultimately too perfect for the franchise to pass up on, and Burrow became the number 1 pick of that year's draft. In his first season in Cincy, many weren't expecting much. The roster was in full rebuild mode, and Burrow didn't have many weapons to work with. This would prove costly, as in the 11th game of the season against the Washington Commanders, Burrow suffered a serious leg injury, which would turn out to be a torn ACL and MCL, and was declared finished for the rest of that season. Even when he was playing, the Bengals weren't really a competitive team, and they finished their campaign at 4-11. Coming into his second season, no one, and I mean no one, would have told you that the Cincinnati Bengals would be in the spot they're in right now. But it's safe to say the reunion with Jamar Chase and a full healthy season from Joe Mixon turned a 4-11 year into a Super Bowl run. Burrow still has a lot left to prove, and if he can start putting together a few good seasons in the wide open AFC North, the sky's the limit. Well guys, that's the story of Joe Burrow. Hope you guys enjoy the vid. Make sure you show your boy some appreciation by hitting that like and subscribe button. Until next time guys, peace.